All right. So, as you guys know, we are hard at it in the transition to Canvas from Haiku, and hopefully you have been working in the Growing with Canvas course online. I'm going to give you a sneak peek to an announcement that's probably coming anyway from your administrator, but I'll go ahead and let you know. We're going to be wrapping that course up on, I think it's March 26th. So you still have some time to complete it. I also know that I get people asking me all the time, hey, I need some digital learning credits. I'm renewing this year or next year or something like that. That course, if you complete all the activities in it, is going to be worth a full 1.0 digital learning credits because it's considered to be a 10-hour course. So go ahead and make sure you do that. And the way you'll get credit is by just completing all the activities. So I'm not going through and individually grading those activities. I'm just looking in the grade book to see that something has been submitted. Okay, so just make sure that you have done that, that you've done all the activities. If you hit a snag on one of those for some reason or another, just shoot me an email and I'll help you figure out what's going on. I've had a couple of the modules where folks have either had a hard time figuring out where to post something or the instructions were not entirely clear or something like that. So just shoot me an email if you get stuck on something like that. I don't mind helping you. Or you can talk to the digital learning leader at your school and they can certainly help as well. All right. Putting them on the spot too. All right, so today's session, and we're going to be doing these just about every Friday. I think that's the plan for at least a couple months here. We're going to be doing these on Friday mornings. They are fully optional, and my intention is to record these. So I know we're all busy and we've got lots of stuff going on, supporting our remote learners and all of that. So if you can't make one, I will record the session. And then after that session's over, I'm going to go back and just swap the link out in that spreadsheet to replace the link to the live meeting to the recording so you can go back and watch it later. So if that doesn't happen in a timely fashion, feel free to send me an email in all caps and I will make sure that happens. All right, so we're going to be moving through here, getting started. If for some reason you don't know who I am, I'm Lucas Galicia. I'm the Director of Digital Learning and Media, and I'm also our Canvas administrator for the district. I do want to just always plugging this resource here, so I'm going to post a link to this in the chat, and I keep adding stuff to it. But we have, I set up a Canvas specifically for sharing resources. So if you haven't seen that yet, there's tons of stuff there. I've got it kind of categorized based off of the hot topics. So just bookmark that. And if you have things, if you come across things that you think need to be added to it, then by all means, send it to me. So hopefully you get some ideas of what you can watch next. Absolutely, totally not related to this, to what we're going to be learning about today, but I always like to keep things light and informal here. And so, and I'll say that light and informal is the rule with this session. If you have a question, feel free just to unmute and talk over me. Doesn't bother me at all. Or you can post your question in chat. If I miss something, somebody bring that to my attention, like, hey, you missed a question, and just make sure that I stay on track with that. I will tell you too, next week, I'm going to try something a little different. And I'm going to have basically what I'm calling like an open lab, open workshop session. It will literally be a workshop. I would encourage you if you want to come, set aside an hour of your day to start working on your Canvas, or you're moving your stuff into Canvas, or whatever you're doing. I'm going to be here as you have questions. I'll be answering those. No real set agenda, but if something continues to come up between now and then or during that session, then we'll certainly stop, pause, and address that. So next week's kind of open, informal. Maybe I'll get some lobby music, maybe some Def Leppard to play in the background softly. All right. So, I am all about transparency. I think I don't want to sugarcoat things in any way or mislead you in any way. So I want to talk about the concept of moving stuff from Haiku into Canvas and the reality of it. And yes, Haiku, you can go into your Haiku and export your course and all the content in it. And that utilizes a standard, what's considered a standard industry standard format called Common Cartridge. And so you can export that, and then you can go into Canvas and import that in to Canvas. The challenge is, and I'm going to show you how to do it. The challenge is that the way Haiku treats some things and the way Canvas treats them is sometimes very different. So it just kind of depends on how you have your course set up to start with, and what's worth, is it worth your time and effort? For the stuff that I have developed, for example, Epic Academy and things like that, it just wasn't worth the effort to try to clean it up after I exported and imported it in. It just treated things strangely. We'll talk about that in more specific ways. And there is a link to an article from Haiku. In fact, let me make sure that I can share this with you guys. I'm going to post a link in the chat to this presentation so you can go back and look at it. Let me change my share settings. All right, this might take a minute. Here we go. All right. So there's a link to this slide deck in case you want to go back and look at it later. It does have some step-by-step stuff and some links, but not a whole lot. And let's make sure we get everybody in. Okay. So yeah, like I said, the transition from one platform to the other is not always smooth, but let's walk through how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you here with screenshots on slides what that looks like, how to do it, and then I'll actually switch over to Haiku and walk you through that, how to generate an export file. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go into our Haiku, a class that we want to export. And in the right side, almost up to the right corner, we'll click that Manage Class link. And I'll come down to the Import Export option. And that's going to open a window that looks like this. And I want to click on the Export tab. And you're going to get three options for Common Cartridge Export: 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. In my experience, I don't see any difference in the results of one versus the other. I chose 1.2 because it's in the middle. Not a very scientific reason to choose that, but that's what I chose. So then you click Export, and it takes it just a little bit to kind of package things up, and then you'll be prompted to download a file. So download that file to your computer. It'll be a .imscc file. And then what I want to do is go into Canvas and go to my dashboard, and I'm going to start a new course. And from there, once I'm in that empty course, I'm going to click on the first option on the right side, Import Existing Content, and then it's going to ask me some questions. What kind of content is it? Well, it's Common Cartridge. I choose the file that I downloaded. If I have question banks built up in there, then it might detect those. I didn't have question banks in mind because I don't use those. And then I just selected all content and import, and then it runs, and we let it go through that process. So those are the steps. Let me demonstrate that for you live here. So I am in PowerSchool Learning. Epic is probably my biggest course in Haiku that I have built. Yeah, good question, Tony. The steps for this, so I've linked the presentation here, and so you can find those steps in that presentation, but the recording for this will be, actually I'll put it in two places. I'll put it in this spreadsheet where we share the different PD and things that are going on this semester. I'm going to replace this link here, which is a link right now to the live meeting. I'll replace that with a link to the recording after this session is over. And that'll be my pattern kind of from here on out. So yeah, you're welcome. No problem. Katie, you say you haven't been having problems with downloading once I export. I would probably have to know more about that or see it in action. You may also, if there's a tech in your building, get them just to kind of watch you do that. If the file's either not coming down or it's just kind of disappearing. I typically, when I download files, I always put them on my desktop because I can always find them. Yeah, and let me do that full screen here. Is that a little better? Hopefully it is. I'm not sure okay. That may have made a little bit of difference. Hopefully it did. Okay, so here I am in PowerSchool Learning. Yeah, there's probably not much I can do about that as far as that's gonna, at this point, it's a Google Meet thing, I think. So so I apologize for that. I see folks leaning in. Is it really that small? Okay. And you may be able to, here's another thing you can do. Yeah, you can change your layout. Thank you, John. That's what I was going to say. In Google Meet, if you go down to the 3 little dots in the bottom right corner, there's some options to change layout and also to go full screen. And then if you pin the presentation, like was just suggested there, that will help too. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, and you can close chat too. That'll give you a little more screen real estate as well. Good suggestions, y'all. Thanks. See, this is what it's all about. Like getting together, we all help each other out. We're all in this together. All right. So let me walk you through the steps of how to generate your export file from Haiku. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm in my class that I want to export, and I'm going to come over to Manage Class, and I click that. And I come down to the import export option, and I'm going to click it. And from here, I want to switch to the export tab. So I have 2 tabs, import, export. So I want to switch to the export tab and choose a version of Common Cartridge Export. I would just say go with 1.2. That's fine, but I don't know that you're going to get much difference in the results from one to the other, but there was some conversation about 1.2 in the Haiku support forum, so that's just what I went with. And then you're going to click the export button. And when you do that, it's going to start packaging up all the stuff. And then when it's done, you'll get this little option over here. It says last export, and it'll tell you when that was, and you can download the file. So then I simply just click that download. It'll pop up at the bottom of my Chrome browser and says it's downloading. Like I said, I usually put them on my desktop, but you put it wherever you can find it, and then you'll have that file. So in fact, let me just go ahead and do that so I can demonstrate. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that over, drop it on my desktop, and that's it. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to Canvas. So I have logged into Canvas. Let me go back to my dashboard. Now, here's the thing to remember about in Canvas. If you're set up as a teacher, if the system recognizes you as a teacher, you will have this option to start a new course. If for some reason you don't have that button, and that typically is because you're like office assistants, TA, something like that, or somebody who's not in PowerSchool assigned as a classroom teacher, you might be missing that button. If that's the case, just drop me an email and I can fix that for you real quick. Because once Canvas sees you listed as the teacher of a course, from then on, you will have the option to create your own courses. There's no limit to the number of these you can create. I really do encourage you to play around with it. You can't mess them. I mean, you really can't mess them up. So if you want to experiment with this, try it. I've tried several different versions of importing and exporting and all that, trying to see what works. So I'm going to click Start a New Course. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call this one Epic Test Import. You can always change this later. It does not matter. Content license, all that, so just leave that where it is, and then click Create Course. And here is my wonderful but incredibly empty course shell. All right, so from here, what I want to do is tell Canvas to import that file. And I see a question. Nicole asks, does exporting my class also copy over all of my files? I have a few Smart Notebook files I haven't converted yet that I'd like to have as a resource. Yes, I think. I'm pretty sure most of that stuff will come over. You, of course, will want to verify that. I would also recommend that now is a great time. When is the time to back things up? Right now. Always my rule. So it's just a good, if you have time to back up things, always back things up. And I suggest copying things over into a Google Drive folder because that's in the cloud. And if Google Drive ever crashes worldwide, we have more things to worry about than our files for school. Something bad's happening. So I would back things up into a Google Cloud file. But yeah, do that. Back those things up anyway. It's just a good thing to do. Okay, so I've gone in. I've told Canvas that I'm going to be importing content into this course. And it's like, well, what type? So I'm going to click here. And I'm going to come down to Common Cartridge 1.x. Any assignments tests I have in Haiku, will they be transferred so I can use them in the future? Yes, as I understand, your assessments transfer pretty well. I've got some math teachers, I think, that have done that and have had good experiences with it. So again, it just kind of depends on, I say test it out. Test it out and see. And so that go through these steps and just see what happens. And it might just be that you go and clean things up after the fact and you don't have to rebuild everything from scratch. If you have some really big like question banks and test assessments built, it might be worthwhile to do that. To just give it a try. All right, so I've selected Common Cartridge 1.x. I'm going to choose the file and I'm going to select my .imscc file that I downloaded. Now, if you have question banks in there, or I think this is, well, if you've already built a question bank in Canvas, this will move that stuff around. I don't know. I'll admit I haven't done a lot with that because I don't build question banks for the stuff that I do. I'm going to tell it to pull in all content. Now, this isn't going to pull in like student data or anything like that, but it will pull in all the other content that's in your course. I'm not even going to mess with the option stuff here, and I'm just going to click import. So then it uploads the file, and then I get this little notice that it's in the queue, and then you'll see it start running the import. So this takes usually a minute or two, depends on how big your course is. If you have lots of videos, like actual videos in the course, not linked to them or something like that, it might take a while. As big as Epic Academy is as a course, this really does not take a tremendous amount of time. So we'll let that run for just a moment. And it'll tell me when it's done. So regardless, I think it's worth trying this out. As you know, the disclaimer, your mileage may vary. How much you get out of this and how well it works is really just going to depend on your Haiku and how it's set up and all that. The biggest issue, and I'm going to talk about some of the issues in just a moment, and I've got a little bullet list of some different things I've seen, is the on-page text blocks just don't translate well. And that's what I use those a lot. You may not use that format a lot, so it just kind of depends. Okay, so it says it's completed. There's an issue, but that's because I set up a dumb assessment question in there that doesn't really do anything. So it's like, yeah, I know. So then I click home, and this will take me back, and you can see how that all imports. And so there's my stuff. What date will we lose Haiku? That is a little bit of a question mark. I'll tell you that our contract runs out, I believe, as the last I saw, and I have to go double check, was July 31st. Please don't wait until the last minute. Okay, I just wouldn't bet on that. Like, oh, it's July 30th. I feel like there's something I'm supposed to do. Like, don't be in that spot. Go ahead and take care of anything you want to pull out ahead of time. So here, all of my stuff was brought in. Most of the way Epic Academy is set up is through discussion posts. And so you can see those discussion posts came in as discussions here. And there's really not much to them, just the instructions and all of that. So some of that stuff comes in. The thing that I have issues with, and it's because I use it a lot, are the on-page text blocks, because I put a lot of the content of Epic Academy in those, just kind of write it out like a Microsoft Word document with some pictures and stuff like that. That does not come through well. So let me show you what that looks like for me. Let me pull one of those up. Yeah, this is what happens. Now, the text is there, and that's great. The images are broken, and the thing is, Canvas treats this as a file attachment rather than a page, which is what I would want it to do. I wish that Canvas would see these on-page text blocks and say, hey, let's just make that into a page, its own separate page, but it doesn't. And that's a problem. So it treats it like it's a file attachment, just like if I attached a Word file or a JPEG or something like that. So yeah, it's not ideal. And that's where like importing for me doesn't work, because most of my content is in that format. So anyway, those are the steps. I'm going to pause and just see if you have any questions, and then let me switch back to my presentation, and then we'll talk about other options, other ways to do this. Okay, so here's what I've learned with the import process. Your page structure in Haiku becomes your module structure in Canvas. Can you see my cursor? Is that showing up at all? What? That's weird. Is that a setting in Google? That's weird. I just assumed that it showed your cursor. Maybe not. Okay. Well, can you see it if I highlight something? Does that show up if I'm highlighting that? Can you see that? Okay. Well, I'll try to do that to draw your attention to what I'm clicking to. I can't believe that cursors don't show up when you're screen sharing. That's weird. Okay. Sorry about that. That's never been brought to my attention before. Okay. So your page structure in again in Haiku becomes your module structure in Canvas. Let me show you what I mean by that. So over here on the left, here are my pages in Haiku. So I have like the Connected Superstar, and then it breaks down into these sub pages, right? That over here, let me scroll down a little bit so you can see that section. So you can see those here, right? And those pages and the sub pages are here, or those activities are here. So that's how it translates over. Again, I've talked about the on-page text blocks. That's the files are there. I will tell you that it's also annoying that Haiku, for whatever reason, if I upload an image that says parts of the flower.jpg, Haiku changes the names of your files for some reason. I don't know why. Really mess it into something that's completely unrecognizable, just letters and numbers. And so when those come into Canvas, they're still like that. And that's part of the reason why the images are broken. They're still there if you look in the files, but it's really hard. Other than the previews, it's hard to tell what they are. So that's a little frustrating too. I will tell you that if you have links in a Haiku page from one page in Haiku that links to another page in Haiku, that's not going to work because those links come over as they are. And so in Canvas, it's going to think, hey, there's a link from one thing to another. You can change the names of the files, so you can fix them back. Like if that's what you're talking about, Jonathan. Like if it went to QR7 #, whatever was the name, and you wanted to change the name back to parts of the flower, you can do that. That would be a lot of work. I think it would be easier to follow some of the steps I'm going to share with you in just a moment to do this. Also, your Google Drive files still live in Google Drive, but you may need to relink those. I haven't played with that a lot to see how that works, but I would go back and just double check those. Again, I'd go back and look if you have question banks or assessments, just to make sure that those transferred properly, that the correct answers are still the correct answers and all that. And Haiku will not import things like rubric standards or calendar items according to their table of what comes over. So just to let you know. Okay, so there's that. That's the whole like technical moving things from one house into the other by using the import export option. So let's switch gears a little bit. And I'm going to share with you what I prefer to do, and that's what I've done. I think this is a better solution, but it may be a little more time consuming. Again, test this out, test the import thing, export thing out. It may work better for you than it did for me. My suggestion is to treat this like I'm moving out of one house into a shiny new house. And in doing so, I'm going to go through my house, clean out any trash, junk. You know what? We haven't used that pink flamingo in the yard in a long time. I really don't need it. It's also missing a wing. Let's chunk it. Clean out the stuff that you're no longer using, things that are old, that kind of thing, and get rid of them. And then take really what's good and move that over manually. And so that way, when you're moving into your new house, you're kind of setting up fresh, right? That's kind of how I look at it. And here's some suggestions on how to do that. One, a side-by-side approach is best. And I would just say have two windows or have two tabs and move stuff from one into the other. So like I said, your page structure in Haiku, that just becomes how you set your modules up in Canvas if you do it manually. So if I have a page that says Connected Superstar and it has subpages, blogging, Google Productivity, etc., I would set my modules up like that. Yeah, can you hire 3 men in a truck? It's funny because I was thinking about putting that image of their logo in my presentation. Yeah, it would be nice. That would be awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't. And this is not where you can call your buddies and promise them pizza and some drinks for helping you move either, I think. I don't know. You may have friends who could do that. Might be worth paying them to do it. But yeah, your page structure in Haiku just becomes how your modules are set up. And Myra, you want my flamingo? Actually, I don't have a pink flamingo. I really should get pink flamingos. I should get a bunch and just put them all in my yard because the neighbors would they'd lose their minds. It'd be awesome. And then, of course, if you have activities like graded assignments or discussion posts or whatever, those are going to come in as well. So that's my recommendation. Set your modules up to match how your pages look and how you have your pages set up. I still, this is up for debate. It just kind of depends on how you teach, whether you teach from a sort of unit concept topic-based approach or whether you teach from a time-based approach. There's merits to both. I think probably if I were back in the high school classroom teaching biology again, I would have my stuff set up on my modules would be set up as weeks. So like week 1, week 2, week 3 sort of thing. And then the content within that. That's up to you. It kind of depends on what your preference is for how you like to set your class up. Or it might be, if you took a unit-based approach, it might be ecosystems, the cell, DNA, you know, that kind of thing. So it just depends on how you want to set yours up. There's no rule for that. And then what you want to do is recreate your instructional content as on the on-page text blocks as just pages. So when you add stuff to a module, you just go into the modules and you click that plus and you pick what it is you want to add. Let me show you how that looks. I'll demo that. So here I am in this imported class, and let's say there's an activity that I want to add to. Let me find a smaller section here. Maybe to the digital tools for learning module. So at the top of every module, you have this plus. And from here, if I click the plus, I can choose my different things that I put in my course. So an assignment is anything that's graded, anything that I have them do. Like it might be write a research paper, create a blog post, create an image, whatever. It's something that you're going to grade that's not like a multiple choice test or a quiz or whatever. Then of course quizzes are any assessment that's has multiple choice, true, false. Even if it's a test, still called a quiz in Canvas. If I want them to access a file that I've attached, you can put those in here. And I'm going to show you a slide in a minute with some recommendations. I recommend if you're going to put a file in, just link to it in your page rather than linking to it separately. It depends. It's up to you. Pages are like your on-screen text that you used in Haiku. So like if you have hey, this week we're doing this, here's our learning targets, this is what we're going to be working on, here's some definitions of things, here's a video for you to watch. Pages is what you want to use. Pages are, in my opinion, the #1 thing that you're going to be having in your course. Discussions are just discussion forum posts. Highly recommend you use those. It's a great way to get students writing, talking, thinking. And there's a lot of stuff you can do with those. All right. Text headers are just dividers. They're ways of it's a way of breaking up your module into subtopics. They don't do anything other than just provide a visual break. And then external URL is just a link to an outside website. An external tool is links to something that's integrated like Flipgrid or Edpuzzle or something like that. So all of those things are your options. That's what your course consists of, are those things. And then once you have it in, it's going to pop in here into your module, and you can just drag and drop it to wherever you want it. You can indent it if you want to. That's a good way to kind of break things up visually. That's one of those headers right here. This thing where it says Google Apps for Education, it doesn't do anything. It just breaks up the module visually. So there's that. Let me pop back over here for a moment and then give you some other suggestions. So you're doing this side-by-side move from Haiku into Canvas. Copying and pasting works fine. I tried it yesterday. I created a page in Canvas, went to my on-page text block in Haiku, copied the text, and pasted it into Canvas, and it worked like a champ. Not a problem. The only thing I would tell you is don't copy paste your pictures. Don't copy paste pictures, because what that does, it creates what's called a hot link. And basically, when a web browser is looking for an image on the internet, it's like, well, where does it live? And if you copy pasted the image, it's going to say, oh, that lives in Surrey.haikulearning.whatever, and it's going to go back and look for it. And then after July 31st, it ain't going to find it. Good. Yeah, that's bad. So it's not going to be there anymore. So for your images, any pictures you have in your course, download them to your computer and then just re-upload them. It's a couple more steps, but you make sure you're never going to have those broken images after July 31st. But that's it. Just copy paste side by side works pretty well. So again, let me go back. Here's an explanation of all of those different activities that you can put in your modules. And so with a little, my own definition of those: assignments, just anything that's graded, that's not a quiz or a test. Quizzes, I need to bold that. My bad design here. But things like files and your URLs and tools, I would put those in the page. I wouldn't keep those separate, but you may choose otherwise. That's just a personal preference. All right, let's see here. So I'm going to pause there, and we're going to give you a moment to think about and see if you have any questions about the whole side-by-side copy pasting method. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Lucas, I have a question. This is Rhonda Taylor. How are you?
Hey, yep, go ahead.
So, you know, earlier you were talking about importing stuff from Haiku, math teacher. So we have a lot of assignments that have pictures of graphs of statistical data. So am I hearing you correctly that we're going to have to save all of those pictures because they will not download and import directly, or are you just saying if you copy and paste we would have to download?
Yeah. So let me demo that specifically just to show you. Like let's say I wanted to move this content into Canvas. What I would do is come in and copy the text and paste it into a page in Canvas. But this image, I need to go right-click, save image as, put it on my computer, and then insert it back into the page, rather than copying it as well. Now, it might copy and it might show up, but the problem is once Haiku goes away, this picture will probably go away as well. And then I'm just going to have a course full of broken images.
Does that also apply to if you export your Haiku class and then?
Good question. So that's my answer to that is your mileage may vary. My images, because of the way Haiku treats images, it renamed them and then just treated them as files, like attached files. It didn't put them back in right. In my import. So you might try it, you might get a different result. It may just be me. But from what I've seen, it doesn't work well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I will say this too, Haiku's, and this may or may not be related to what you're talking about, Rhonda. We've had an absolute bear of a time with Haiku's equation editor, and Haiku's equation editor had generated images for equations that were used in math courses, but then they were broken. They were just showing up broken. So we had we had some credit recovery courses that had all these broken in the tests. They were in the in just like the content where the student was reading and learning kind of stuff, and they were just all messed up, and that was frustrating. And we reported it as a bug. And basically the response we got back from PowerSchool Learning Haiku is, yeah, we know, and we're not going to do anything about it. So it was like, oh, that's great. I will tell you that Canvas has its own editor in there, and that will work fine. The other thing that those pictures, like if it's something that's another way to do things. So doing like a snip, like grabbing and selecting those images and downloading them to your computer to upload back into Canvas, or just recreating them with the equation editor. It kind of depends. Sydney, thank you for that. And I'm sorry that you had that experience too, but I kind of feel like that's probably what everybody's going to experience.
Okay, can I ask you another question, Lucas?
Yeah.
Since you talked about that equation editor in Haiku, you know, I don't know if you know or not, but we don't have access to that anymore now that Adobe Flash Player is in term or whatever they call it. So we cannot add any more equations, like content that we're trying to build or revamp right now. We can't do any equations as math teacher. So does Canvas run that same script, or does it have a different kind of equation?
Canvas is modernized.
Okay.
And yeah, they don't use Flash. Thank goodness. Flash is, just so you know, because I've gotten emails about this, and I feel bad for people because people are like, all my stuff is broken, it doesn't work, and I'm like, I can't do anything about it. I like to fix things, and I can't fix this. But Flash's head has been on the chopping block for years now. It really took them longer to kill it off than I thought they would. And finally, you have those little warning messages at the top of at the top of Chrome, like the Flash support is going to be removed, and Adobe has killed it off. The company that makes it, they've killed it off, and it's dead. So yeah, you shouldn't have a problem with canvases. If you do, let me know, and we will get support for them. But I don't think you'll have a problem at all with that. And so speaking of that, I am going to switch gears, and we're going to jump in, and I'm just going to do a quick tour of the content editor. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to create a page real quick and just show you how that works. So I'm going to click page, new page, give it a name. Welcome to my awesome class. And it's going to put it at the bottom of this big, long, there it is. Okay. So right now, first off, note that this is not published right now. It's out there, but it's not published because I have the little slash here. When I'm ready to publish a particular quiz, topic, whatever, I can click that little thing here, and now it's published. You can also, of course, set that up to publish on a certain date or whatever too. So it just depends, kind of like Haiku did. All right, so going to go in. My awesome class page is very boring right now. So I'm going to come up and click edit. And that's going to launch the editor. And just like most editors out there, like whether it's Google Docs or some other system, Haiku or whatever, it kind of works like a word processor. You use headings and bold and underline and all that. There are, you can put links in, you upload your images from here. If I want to add images, if I want to add other media like a music or whatever. This is cool though. I do want to point this out. There's this upload record media option. So where we have been using other tools to create video, you can do that directly here. And I don't know if you guys can see what's on my screen. Okay, good. So I can record an explanation video directly inside Canvas and add it to my course without having to, oh, I'm getting double thumbs up for that one. Awesome. And create that recording. And then it's boom, it's right there inside my class, which is really cool. So not having to use extra tools and all that, it's built right into Canvas. Love that. I will tell you too, that if you really want to have some fun with this, you can allow your students to record audio or video responses back to you as part of their assignment. And they can turn on their webcam and record things and submit it back to you. Or if you're giving feedback on an assignment, like, hey, love what you wrote in this first paragraph, but you need to flesh your ideas out more. Also, make sure you know the difference between there, and there. That kind of thing. You can give them video or even audio feedback. It's really cool. So I'm going to turn that off, but love that feature. It's built right in. Good stuff. You can upload documents or link to any documents you've already added, or you can use your Google Drive integration stuff as well. This plug icon here lets you link to existing things. For example, Google, and you can drag and drop things from your Google Drive into here. You can search for other things. We can add more things to this as you connect different services up to your Canvas. So like if you use Flipgrid or you use Edpuzzle or whatever, you can link all those things in, and they work really beautifully. Here's the equation editor that was mentioned before. So you can set those things up here, and then once it's set up, insert that into your course. And then, of course, cloud-based tools, like if you're embedding something from another tool, you just paste your embed code here and click, and it's going to show up right in your page. So yeah, it also does things, and this is new because I've just updated this recently. It will show you your word count for things. You can view keyboard. There's keyboard shortcuts that make this stuff a little smoother. This is really cool. Something to look at is an accessibility checker. And so if you have students or you think you'll ever have students who might have visual impairments or hearing impairments, it will scan that document and say, hey, you might want to consider changing this to meet ADA requirements and things like that. Really cool. There's just a lot of stuff here. But again, don't worry about all the bells and whistles. I would just worry about getting my basic content in, and then you can work over the next however many years we're using Canvas to tweak it, make it better. That's another thing I do want to tell you too, is don't feel like you have to have this stellar, amazing course built. Just get your content in and copy and paste your content from one platform into the other, and you can always improve upon it and make it better. So it doesn't have to be amazing to start with. Don't feel too much pressure in that regard. We're all going to be learning this together, including me, as we go forward. So I'm going to pause and see if there are questions. All right. So in the home stretch now, I do want to show you this. Well, that's a good question, Mandy. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, and Jonathan, yours as well. I do want to point this out. If you take your course and you go back to the home page of your course, there's this little glasses icon in the upper right, and that lets you see your course from the student's perspective. Always a good idea. Like, what are my students seeing? You click that and it will show it to you from their point of view. This is what they'll see. And so as you turn all the different menu items and kind of customize it and streamline it, that will show you what the student view looks like. Okay, let me jump back into the editor and answer those questions. First off, Mandy, when will students get training? I think the goal for that will be near the end of this semester. We're going to share some resources to share with students. The number one thing really for students is going to be just getting them logged in, and that'll be the number one thing. Just showing them how to log in and access their courses, and some of the basics. And then beyond that, they'll get most of that experience just being in your courses. So we've got some stuff that we'll push out to you all to show them probably near the end of the semester, and stuff that we'll share with parents as well. And then that way they'll be ready to hit the ground running come fall semester. All right, YouTube links. Let's talk about that. Let me jump back into the editor because yeah, I use a lot of YouTube video in the content that I create. And so you can, of course, just type in copy and paste a link directly to a YouTube video in the editor. That would work. Let me hop over to YouTube for a second and just grab something real quick. All right. Let's see. Let's go with how Reddit broke the stock market. That is fascinating stuff, by the way. What's going on now? And so here I could either just copy, depending on how I want to do it, I could copy and paste that link in. I could get the embed code and use that embed function, which is right over here, this button. Or
Mr. Lucas, you are going very fast. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. So let me go back and walk you through that. Okay. So I'm on YouTube, and let's say I want to share this video, right? So I could very simply come up and copy that link to the video, and then I'm gonna come back to my class. I might say something like, hey, watch this video, and paste it. And then if I save it, I believe that Canvas is going to generate a little, does it do that here? No, yeah. So Canvas, if you paste a YouTube link in, will automatically generate a little thumbnail. If you like that, great. If not, you can always remove that little thumbnail. It's up to you. The other way that you can put this content in would be to embed it. So let me show you how to do that. I might say, watch this video. I'm going to go back to YouTube. And on YouTube, I'm going to come down to share. And then embed. So from here, I'm just going to copy the embed code. I'll come back to my Canvas page, and I'm going to click on this little cloud icon on the right and just paste that embed code in. Click submit. And so now that video is a part of my page. So either way, it just depends on kind of how you want to set your class up. I like the embed option personally better than just linking something. I think it looks better, but that's just personal preference. It's really up to you and how you want to do that. You're talking about the size of how to change the size of the video itself within this area. Yeah. Let me go and see if that option was here. Sometimes you have that option from the YouTube video. What I would recommend is going with the default. And here's why I say that. Just leaving it the default will auto adjust the size based off of the person's screen. So if they're on a small Chromebook, it's going to be proportional to whatever the size of their screen is. So right now you see I have a lot of white space, but that's because I'm on a large screen and I'm in full screen mode. If I shrink this down though, even if I had a smaller screen, it's gonna be fine. So the default should be fine. Yeah, let's look at student view. So again, I want to see student view. I click the little glasses up here in the upper right. And here's the student view. Now, as I've explained in some of my other sessions, and you can go back and watch those videos as well, and this just reminds me when we're in student view, I would go in to my settings for my course and turn off like pretty much almost all of this stuff on the left. You can turn that off and just gets rid of that noise for your kids, especially our elementary students. Just turn off a lot of that stuff. I pretty much keep home, grades, modules, obviously, and that's about it. And the rest of that stuff you can turn off. They're still there. It's still there, but they just don't have all these menu options to confuse them. That's not a bad idea. So when I'm done and I'm ready to switch back, then I just come back to leave student view down here, and that'll put me back in the mode of viewing as a teacher. Yeah. All right. So just a few tips for success. This goes back to the age-old question: how do I eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I would suggest setting some goals and say, hey, I'm going to set my class up, and I'm going to put a couple modules in every week, or I'm just going to work on it a little bit at a time. Set some goals. I'm going to move this content over, or copy and paste this content over. So you don't have to do it all at once. Necessarily don't feel like you have to go through a marathon session unless that's just what you want to do. I also highly recommend working with your PLC. You can add multiple teachers to a course and they can all have edit rights. And so if you are sharing content and basically teaching the same course across multiple teachers, or even from across multiple schools, I mean, there's no reason we couldn't do this. You can have multiple people editing the course. So you could do that. Again, using a template can help you with the visual side of it and setting that up. And there are You can go back through some of the previous sessions and look at that, or go back to your Growing with Canvas course and it'll show you how to use templates. And then if you're like, okay, I've got the basics, now I'm ready to be really critical of my own class, you can use this course evaluation rubric. And it's just going to walk you through like sort of, and it's ideal, but it's sort of like things that a good online course really should have, some ideal stuff, and then things that are like icing on the cake level stuff. So can you apply a template after you copy? Yes, you can. Absolutely. It works. If there are pages in the template and things like that, they just get added on as additional pages and additional content at the bottom of the modules and the content you already have. So yeah, you can definitely do that. Good question. Okay, so here we're just at an hour, but I will, if you need to leave,